I have been working for Brazilian House of Representatives for 21 years, at least 9 of them with transparency, with participation in the lawmaking process. So my work is try to help to open the parliament from an inside machine perspective. Please look at that image. In June 2013, the last year, Brazilian streets were taken over by millions of citizens. And citizens start to complain for a better public transportation. It started as a complaint against the rise of the public transportation fares. And then many other issues came out. People were very angry. They also demanded a better educational system, a better public hospitals, new political reform, and more civil rights, and so on. But to summarize, people wanted a higher quality public services. And they also manifested their interest to improve the dialogue with the government and with the parliament. They wanted to engage in the policy-making process because the government decisions weren't so good so far. So they wanted to take part in those decisions. They wanted their voice to be heard by the parliament, finally. As we know, parliaments should be open to people, but some of them are not actually. And some others are, but in a very old-fashioned way. So my point here today is to say, we need to develop a new process and new tools to this new parliament that in some way need to understand and to learn how to take advantage of the immense power of that new society out there, this 21st century society. And the international community has already recognized the importance of that value. There's an international program called the Open Government Partnership that comprises 63 countries in the world, trying to push government to be more open. Not only government, parliaments to be more open, more transparent, more open to citizens' participation. But how can, in practice, effectively engage people, citizens, in the lawmaking process? It's a challenge, right? It's not easy. Let's think a little bit about parliaments. Parliaments are representative institutions, right? Normally, a national parliament has 200, 300, 500 or even more elected lawmakers to represent thousands or millions of people. And parliaments were invented because it has been impossible, or at least very, very difficult, to exercise direct democracy in large scale to formulate laws, for example. But I believe with the information and communication technology available out there, we can have a new parliament. We can have maybe a conciliation between our representative system and the participatory democracy. And this new parliament has to learn how to harnessing the great power of the crowdsourcing that can come from society to help to do a better work in the parliament. And there are some experiments in the world and in Brazil. I'm gonna tell you a little bit what I do in the Brazilian House of Representatives, trying to implement that vision. For example, let's go first to France. In the French parliament, there's a project called Polymer and CTO. Any lawmaker can raise a challenge regarding a public problem, naturally. For example, individuals, local communities, government, companies in France were using too many harmful pesticides. And after time, receiving suggestions from citizens and specialists, that lawmaker who raised that challenge create and formulate a bill. And then he submit that bill to the parliament. And then he invited citizens to help him to pressure the other lawmakers in the parliament to vote on that bill. Second example. So let's come back to my work. In the Brazilian House, we have this e-democracia portal. There, it's an official portal from the Brazilian House where citizens can share their opinion, their ideas with the representatives regarding the ongoing bills. And there are many interactive tools like video forums, chats, smart polls, and whatever. And tools like that one we call Wiki legis. The idea is to adapt the Wiki philosophy, like we have in the Wikipedia, to draft legislation. So here, citizens can present comments and suggestions in their own version of the text to every part of the draft. And the lawmakers can also try to incorporate some of them into the final draft version, as they did in a very recent case, the Bill of Rights for Internet Users, that is just becoming a law this week. Right? In that case, citizens really presented some suggestions, and the lawmakers accepted, analyzed, and incorporated some of them, and more than that, they made a specific mention to those participants and their respective contributions in an official legislative report. So they have their name there in the registers in the Congress because they are in some way the co-authors of that very important bill. Another example, we have the committee hearings, again using the e-democracy portal in the Brazilian House. Here, citizens can present ideas, information directly. They can chat with lawmakers during a committee hearing. And also, they can use Twitter to send those informations and help lawmakers to increase their capability to questioning ministers who are guests there in these committee hearings. So these were 3 examples where people can write a bill from the scratch with lawmakers, where citizens can engage in legislative debates to draft a bill or to help them in a committee hearings. Those are examples of what I believe is going to be the new duty for the 21st century lawmaker. They are becoming crowdsourcing facilitators. Of course, they keep doing the role they have as mediators, as political leaders, but adding this social element in their work, adding the crowdsourcing and all this immense power of information, of ideas, of creativity that can come from society. All right, that's nice, but it's not enough. I think we can go further into this. Because we know legislative politics, lawmaking process are not so easy issues. They are complex. We don't understand it. It's hard to understand. If you go to a parliament portal, some of them are very good, there are lots of information, but it's hard to understand. Or even hard to find the information you want. So I believe citizens can also help parliaments to translate themselves, to translate their complexity to something more simple. And doing this, we can engage more citizens to participate in lawmaking process, for example. I'll give you another example, try to implement that vision. Here we have the Brazilian House portal. Here we have a list of the congressmen who like to speak about health in their speeches. It's not so bad. There's all good information there. You can access the transcripts in audio and written format is not so bad. But now I'm going to show you the same information made by citizens, created by 3 hackers in a hacking marathon that we had in the Brazilian house. They transforming that information and this, soap bubbles. And the bubbles represent the speech subjects. And the most popular subject is economists, the biggest bubble in the center. And if you click on the second most popular, the second biggest bubble, the house, we have the same information that we had in that previous page in the Parliament portal. And the larger the faces are, the more frequently they speak about healthy. That is the same information of the other, but in much more fun, simple, and user-friendly way. That was made by those hackers in a hacking marathon that took place in October 2013 in the Brazilian house. And there was a wonderful opportunity where congressmen and parliament staff, people like me, the bureaucrats, who could help hackers to develop those applications. And those applications were very good to help citizens to better understand the lawmaking process, to better evaluate the parliamentary work, and also to facilitate the interaction between parliament and society. And that was a very wonderful learning process for us, because we could learn that a collaborative atmosphere can be stimulated. And when we do this, many great innovative results can come out from that. And the most important thing, we can create, we can develop, we can consolidate what I call a citizenship network. In this citizenship network, doesn't matter if you're a hacker, if you're a legislator, if you're a bureaucrat, if you're an activist, we are all citizens. We born as citizens, we live as citizens, we will die as citizens. And as citizens, we can share our knowledge, our experience, our intelligence, our creativity to build a better parliament. And that, just 1 week experience of this hacking marathon was so positive that Brazilian House created a permanent hackerspace. And I have the honor to coordinate this hackerspace now. Here we have a typical meeting in this hackerspace where we have congressmen, some people like me, the bureaucrats, and hackers. We are building ideas and projects and applications to strengthen the social control over the parliament. So those were some experiments around the world, and mainly in Brazil, among many others who are trying to implement this idea to have a much more open and transparent and participatory parliament. What about you? Would you like to engage in this process? So go to the e-democracy website. You can create discussions there. You can draft legislation. You can share your opinion. I believe any contribution can be useful. But let's go together to build this new open parliament. Thank you.